Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's happening? Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast. Alongside Chris Level, I'm Chois Woodman. This podcast, as always, brought to you by our friends at Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Well, what's good? How's your summer going?
Going quickly. Yeah, which I like. I guess in some ways it goes quickly, and other times it drags. But
Sure.
going well, man. I guess we're in the to the All-Star break for MLB, and you've got a little NFL training camp around the corner. Media Days is behind us, and
right.
Red Raiders will be reporting to camp, I don't know, in 2-ish to 3-ish weeks. That's I dislike this time of year greatly, comparatively to other times of the year, I should say. But because it's just like, you just get, I don't know if the right word is bored, but maybe it's because I like the fall and spring so much.
Oh, yeah.
So, and June, April, May, June, July is not that.
Not a big Wimbledon Scott
no.
British Open guy.
Right. Yeah. I'll watch it. It's actually the Open Championship choice.
My bad.
Yeah, that's right. And you should apologize for that. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, but if you had like September, October and all that all the time, then it wouldn't be as special,
True.
So you gotta turn the faucet off a little bit, I guess, to appreciate when the faucet is on. So
One way to put it. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, first, one thing you mentioned there, Big 12 Media Days behind us.
Mm-hmm.
Anything in particular that stood out for you or from anybody?
Well, Mike Gundy made news. No shock. He does this often. I kind of like the unfiltered Mike because his give a damn was broken a long time ago, but that's probably why he's still at Oklahoma State. And that whole kind of circus, if you will, took a situation and we're trying to get out in front of it, deal with it, and then move on, and probably made much more of a distraction and put Ollie Gordon in a more of a spot than they intended. Whatever.
Sure.
Colorado, I guess they lost a lot of Super Bowls last year. There was that commentary, and then I guess I was intrigued by or was curious maybe on how Brett Yormark would handle himself. What would he say? What would he offer up? There was some,
Right.
There was a Totino sponsorship that handled the media days. There's, we're now in partnership with Microsoft. They're going to provide tablets. We have this alumni council. We are going to back off of Big 12 Mexico a bit, which that's the way I'm going to term that. They're backing off of it. They may be all in with it, but I think what happened from talking to people that would know is that you start talking about football and men's basketball, and it's like he uses tent pole events is kind of his term, which we've heard others say. And those are some of those, and I don't think you wanted to farm those out.
Yeah.
Because somebody's losing a home game. I guess that the money didn't create a situation where it overcame somebody losing home games or everybody being on the same page, because I think this is where like coaches and athletic directors go, hey man, we get what you're doing.
Right.
I totally understand it. However, we don't want to be the guinea pig here, or if you're Houston or Kansas, we don't want to be the one giving up a home game. This is a premium game.
Right.
And we'd like to have it at the Fertitta Center or Allen Fieldhouse. I mean, and so I guess we'll go to some other sports there and do some of that. So anyway, but and then the private equity commentary was a bit interesting.
Sure.
I think I was curious there, but now it's the SEC's turn. I think this week, is it not? Isn't the SEC Media Days this
I
week?
believe you're correct. Yeah.
In Dallas, so the Metroplex will be hopping with the All-Star break and the SEC Media Days all going on in the Metroplex, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's.
I mean, yeah. I hope everybody booked their hotel rooms early
Oh
because
man.
that's going to be a bit of a circus. Although Arlington and Dallas, I guess, two technically different locations, but still be a lot of sports activity going on in the Metroplex. So we'll see kind of how what news comes out of that deal and whatnot. But anyway, so yeah, there you go. That's my bullet point rundown. I don't know. Did I miss anything?
No. I mean, the event in Vegas is a little different. We're used to it being in Arlington or somewhere in the.
And it's okay. You were there, but you tell me.
Mhm.
Unnecessary?
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
it feels it just. I wasn't there, but like
I'll say, okay, so to me, if you're going to do it in Vegas, you need signage everywhere. You need it to be a big deal for the Big 12. And I mean, outside of the stadium itself, which is a pretty cool place, I did like Allegiant Stadium.
Allegiant, yes,
Uh,
yes.
but outside of the stadium itself, you wouldn't have known it was going on. I mean,
Well, and
there's,
that's the whole point of Vegas, though.
yeah, yeah,
Everything's going on. I mean,
right.
NBA Summer League going on. I mean, that whole city is just like there's a million things going. So
Sure. So I am curious to see in the future if this becomes some sort of rotational thing where you bounce it around to different areas, or if it's Vegas and Arlington only, or they just tried this out and it wasn't worth it. I'm just curious to see if they, location wise, but unnecessary. I think so. Did I hate it? No. I mean, it was cool to get to go there, but
well, yeah,
I'm
you're always all about Vegas. You like rolling the dice, man. Seven
hey,
come 11, high and low. Look
it
out,
was
baby!
good
It's
to
the
me,
come
so
out
I'm
roll.
not complaining.
Okay, yeah, and
It worked
even
out.
though it was 127 degrees
Oh
most
my
days,
gosh. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it was like
it's a dry heat though. A
every
dry
time we
heat.
stepped outdoors, it was like stepping into a convection oven. Just
Yeah,
I think it hit 119 3 days in a row while we were there, and
not
that was
shocked.
enough. That was enough.
Yeah.
So a question from Brent from Big 12 Media Days. He said, I saw the Big 12 Council or the Big 12 Alumni Council. Who chooses who will be on the Alumni Council from each school, and what is its purpose?
Yeah, that's going to be a collaborative effort between I think your mark probably in unison with each institution says, hey, this is kind of what we need. This is our general idea. Somebody, former athlete or somebody closely associated with athletics or something. I think most of these folks were former athletes, maybe all of them, but
Mm-hmm.
just to have to be able to crowdsource things to I think your mark is there's a lot of committees as it relates to this Big 12. There's an advisory board. There is now an alumni council. There's all kinds of committees and subcommittees that help Brett Yormark kind of maneuver this league through a variety of things. And I think they will probably talk about everything from NIL to rules changes to expansion to recruit, just so I think everybody can be on the same page as far as, okay, this is where our conference sits with this
Yeah.
particular issue. And it's an athlete or former athlete perspective. Obviously, Texas Tech, represented by what was it, Cody Campbell and Carolyn Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the way it was. It was male and female from each institution. So, I mean, people like Steve Young on this deal.
Yeah.
This runs the gamut, wide array of ages and personalities and sports represented and all that stuff. But probably, I mean, a good idea. I don't know what exactly the minutia of what they'll do or how often they'll get together, but it's a fascinating, and it's kind of an outside the box thought process. But I think they'll be involved in a little bit of everything. But really, it's a think tank, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And more minds, especially with a conference this big, can't be a bad thing. Um, yeah, Big 12 Media Days behind us. To me, you don't usually learn a lot. I mean, who would have had money that Dave Aranda might have had the most interesting comment?
Yeah.
They asked.
Yeah.
So
And because it's Aranda,
yeah,
that's
why
what made it news. But yeah, we're just paying guys. That's why we're recruiting.
That's why they're doing so well recruiting. We're just paying. We're paying our players. So yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. But largely, you don't get a whole lot out of media days. You don't learn a whole lot. It's a marker to be one step closer to the season, and we're inside 50 days now. So,
and from being there, I went to a million of these years and years ago. Everything from Kansas City to the Metroplex to San Antonio. I mean, all parts, and it's always everybody's going 11 or 12-0. It's just so much optimism that comes out of these.
no doubt.
Events. Everybody likes their off season. Everybody likes what they added. Everybody's just been crushing it in the weight room. That's just kind of what you get, and that's what But again, it's not everybody. Every conference does these, and I mean, even the Pac-12 twosome did one with an open bar.
With an open bar, get them all liquored up.
Yeah.
So, we got a few questions.
Okay.
From the audience. We'll start with one from Twitter from Leah. Says, is this Clemson and Florida State to the Big 12 talk real, or is this just social media fodder?
Well, it's somewhere in between that. It's real in so much that I find some of these things. One, it's July, so the news cycle is slower, and things get focused on a lot more and talked about more and stay in the news cycle longer. And I find it interesting that people are, I guess, I don't know, shocked that Brett Yormark would have talked to Florida State and Clemson, and I mean, no kidding, like of course he would have. I mean, hopefully like a year ago, or 18 months ago. And hopefully it's been ongoing since then.
Yeah, there's got to be dialogue going on,
or at least an attempt.
Yeah.
And I think that where you get lost in the weeds a bit is the mutual interest part.
Right.
I think that they would be interested, and that part would be true if you could pay them enough money for them to justify such a move. But I don't think you're in a position to do that. And so that's where, because you're talking a significant price tag compared to what they're getting in the ACC, like, because they want Big Ten SEC money. They feel like they're owed that. You're not in a position to pay that, because if you were, you would be getting the same, and you're just not. It's substantially lower. And I think that's where the private equity kind of conversation kind of blends into this. Would you take a bunch of money from a firm and help pay their exit fee and be on the hook a bit to try to secure them? There's, because then I can get into, and if a judge rules that a grant of rights is you can't be beholden by that agreement, then at that point, if you get Florida State and Clemson and there's no such thing as a grant of rights, I mean they're gonna leave you as soon as a Big Ten or SEC invite were to come along, whether that ever happens or So I think everybody's just doing due diligence, but of course they would have talked.
Right.
There may be legitimate mutual interest, but is it realistic at this point? I would say no. I'm not trying to pour water on it.
Sure.
I do think the the ACC's on borrowed time. I think that everything from a reformed ACC to uneven revenue sharing in the ACC to it breaking apart is all on the table and probably likely. You can rank those possibilities in order if you want, but do I think Florida State and Clemson are realistically at the end of the day ever going to be Big 12 members? No. That doesn't take anything away from the Big 12. I just don't know that they're willing to walk away from that, and I just don't know if you're in a position to make that feasible.
And to be honest, the Big 12 could just be leverage too for in those.
I guarantee you, and if I'm the SEC or the Big Ten, I mean, I'm probably thinking like, is this some sort of threat? Go for it, guys.
Yeah.
Like, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
And the TV folks are sitting there going, we don't want any movement. We've got these two brands locked up for under the market, or below market price.
Yep.
They don't want to see any movement.
No, they don't.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot working against this, but I think because people may want it to be true, and there's a lot of Twitter activity about it, people are getting excited about it, or people are wanting to believe it because they want it to happen, and that doesn't mean that it will, or that it is likely, or anything like that. So that's my opinion.
Yeah.
We've been doing this realignment thing since 2010. Actually, I guess since '96, when the Big 12 was originally formed, and and then that was a whole controversial deal with Ann Richards got Baylor in, and Tech was in, and it pissed TCU off and some other entities and all that. So yeah, it's always going to be about the money, man. And I just don't know if you're positioned to make it worth their while. And if you, because you would like some of that extra money too, right?
I would love some. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if you are willing to sell your ownership to your league to get these members in, and then you're basically paying their exit fees is what it's going to come down to, and then you'll now be involved in unequal revenue sharing, because they're going to get more money because part of their money is going to be going to get them out of the ACC. So anyway,
I think most Big 12 fans like the idea of those two schools, Florida State, Clemson, but by no means would you want them to come in and do anything like Texas or OU did for years, where they dominate the conference from a voice standpoint. So,
and I don't think they're, if they were, how should I phrase this? If they were brands like Oklahoma and Texas and had the population and the geography to back it up, the SEC and the Big Ten they would make it work, or they would be trying, but I just don't envision that as the case. And the SEC, they've already got Florida. They've already got South Carolina. They own those states in many ways. So that's why they're the one not getting talked about. But North Carolina is really the apple of everybody's eye from the Big Ten and the SEC. It's untapped geography from both leagues, the brand, the academics from a Big Ten standpoint. I just think, that they would be the one that people that really know what they're talking about would tell you that's the real key. If there was a ranking, I think North Carolina is ahead of Clemson and Florida State, but they're just sitting quietly and kind of letting this play out, and not really being as loud as Clemson and especially Florida State is.
All right, got quite a few football-related questions. Before we get to those, I want to get to a kind of a random question from Trisha. It says, are you surprised that Jalen Tyson was drafted before Shannon a couple of weeks ago?
I mean, do I think that Jalen Tyson is a better player than TJ? No. But I think that when you get into the NBA, one, you have the situation with the court case with TJ, whether that you buy into that or not. He was found to be clean and free from that. That still does some sort of harm PR-wise to him. But I think the main reason is age. I think Jalen Tyson is, I want to say, 3 years younger, I think is right. And that it doesn't make it right, but that's the way NBA folks, the way they would view it is this. Is TJ Shannon he's older? I mean, what do we talk? What is he, 24? Is that right?
If not, he's creeping on it. Yeah,
23 or 24-ish. Yep. He maybe a finished product. He's not growing anymore. He's gotten as good as he's going to be. How much more is there? That's the way they whether that's true or not. That's the way blanket that they view it. Whereas Jalen is more of a unfinished product and got room to grow and can score. Here's what I would say though. This is just my opinion. I'm not trying to take a shot at anybody. TJ is a winner. Yeah. He's been on every team that he's on wins. you can't say that about Jalen Tyson. Every team that he's been on recently loses.
True.
And that's maybe not necessarily fair, but Jalen is a athletic scorer, has some size, but does he do everything he can to help that team win and all those things? Whereas TJ, he's on winning teams. And again, I'm not trying to take a shot at anybody, but
Right.
but we'll just kind of see how their careers play out. It's very difficult to make it in that league, man. I mean, it just is. With as much foreign influence as there is, and there's so many guys on teams that you and I have just never heard of.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, didn't go to college and come from wherever. And you just look at the first of I was in France recently, and that was like the hub of the first round of the NBA draft. I think 5 or 6 French guys. I mean, I was in Lyon, France, 4 or 5 days ago, and that's where the number one pick and I'm thinking, like, this is where, like, yeah. I mean, it's nuts to me. But anyways, so that's just my opinion, or doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. But that's kind of why I think that's the way that they view it, as far as draft order and all that. So
I forgot to ask you, how was the Paris and all of France, your trip?
Paris was awesome. I would go back to Paris in a heartbeat. It's everything that, I mean, it's got like a New York feel to it, but it's so much better than New York, in my opinion.
Wow.
It's cleaner. It's not that it's perfect, but it's older, so there's a lot more history. I just feel claustrophobic in New York.
I don't blame
you. I do. I mean, it's so crowded, and so that's just not. And I've seen it so many times. So, I'm not anti-New York. I just have no desire to go back. I'd go back to Paris in a heartbeat. There's just a lot to see and do and learn about. And I even saw. I thought this was cool. I sent this picture to a couple of buddies, but we were, on this walking tour. They're teaching us about all the stuff, and I even took a picture of this little sliver in this building, and it was the Texas Embassy back in the 1870s when Texas was an independent state, and they actually had its own embassy over there in Paris, France, which I thought was awesome. Like, I mean, just The lady goes, "Y'all are all from Texas, right?" And I'm like, "Yes." And she goes, "Look at that right there." And I was like, "Oh my!" So anyway, I thought that was pretty cool.
That is really cool.
It's all Texas or West Texas, whatever. Yeah.
West Texas. Yeah. So let's get to a couple of football questions. We'll start with one from Mark. It says, Coach McGuire said he'd like to get 3 quarterbacks on the field at times. Not much mention of Jake Strong. Is it safe to say he may be passed up in his QB4 currently?
I think that this is part of the portal NIL era when you really try to keep everybody engaged, maybe more so than you used to. Do I believe this is not a Tyler Shuck, Behren Morton, Donovan Smith scenario? Right. I don't buy that at all. I do think there is some truth into what he says in that, and I think Joey told everybody, and that it shouldn't become as a surprise if you've listened to this show, but Cam Brown is going to play. I think they have an intention on playing him regularly and using him like Donovan Smith. Red zone, short yardage, gadget, and I can see Behren Morton still being on the field at these times. But a third guy, I don't buy it, because at this point you're taking too many good players off the field to put players on the field that aren't as good, just to be frank. And I don't think that Jake Strong or Will Hammond have earned that yet. I think clearly Cam Brown has, and we may get a lot of Cam Brown and Behren Morton off on the sideline and Cam Brown just on, but I can envision a scenario or 2-point conversion or something where Cam and Behren are on the field at the same time. And I do think it's realistic to think that Will Hammond has passed Jake Strong. Yeah, I mean, or is right there with him. That'll be interesting to see, kind of, if you are trying to just get to the end of a game, kind of how you roll with that. But I would say that after this season, I bet there's movement in that quarterback room, because Lloyd Jones is coming in. You don't graduate anybody. Pretty crowded, and at some point you want to go play, but I I think Will Hammond and your incoming player, and then you've got 2 ahead of them. So yeah, there's just there's a lot there. But so yeah, I think that's because Will Hammond, by all accounts, and we saw some of this in the spring, really good at football, and he's added some weight, and people will tell you that he is very, very serious about his craft, his sport, this stage in life. So I think that and he's got a lot of natural ability to go with it. So you put that together, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Got this question level earlier this week on the radio on 100.7 The Score, but it says if Texas Tech's going to win 9 games, how many yards does Behren Morton need to throw for this season? If you put a number of yards there, I don't think you've had. For
you know what, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately. That was a lot of the talk, I think, regionally, nationally, about Big 12 Media Days, as everybody saw the media poll and they tried to determine, kind of who's a contender, who's not. Everybody that sits down and does radio interviews, that they're not directly associated with a school, it's who's a legit contender. You go through all that, and then I think the talk quickly goes to how many teams could this league get into the playoffs. And I think most agree right now, not that they'll be right, but most agree right now, it's going to be difficult to get a second team in.
Yeah.
Because of how meaty your league is. And I've just thought about that. Like every one of these teams just doesn't have much margin for error at all. You've got to do enough to get to Arlington and then win that game, and then you're in. But other than that, I mean, so you mentioned 9 games. I think that'd be a successful season for Texas Tech in some ways, but that would fall way short of a playoff bid. Anyway, okay, sorry, I didn't mean to go
unless
off
you were 7-2, found your way into the championship and won there. That would be the only way. If you lost at Washington State, it would be.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing is that really the Washington State game or your non-conference games now, they really only matter if you are trying to be an at-large team.
Right.
That's where it really factors in. Otherwise, they're meaningless in other ways. As far as the playoff goes, they're not meaningless, but just
no, I get it.
On topic. That's why I've heard a lot of criticism that should the league have pushed back a bit more on, like, say, a Kansas State and Arizona playing a non-conference game. You are taking 2 of your top 5 teams on paper, and you're guaranteeing one of them is going to have a loss.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a self-inflicted wound.
And we have 2 of these.
Baylor and Utah is the other one.
Much.
And imagine Baylor going to Salt Lake City and winning and beating the league favorite. Yeah. I mean,
it's not going to
be great for Baylor.
Yeah.
And you could preach about, oh man, well, it just speaks to how deep the league is, but it would make the Big 12 in general look really, really bad from an optics standpoint, even though it wouldn't. Yeah.
And the Farmageddon game next year that's in Ireland, that's non-conference, right?
I believe that to be true. Yes.
Okay. So
I believe, but I'm not 100%. So yeah. Anyway. Okay. Behren Morton yardage. Yeah. I think you need to get into the 3,800 to 4,200 range, and really the point here is not yards passed for. It's availability.
Yep.
If he's available, the number will be fine. The number will be there. He's going to average somewhere between 275 and 375 per game, give or take. I mean, I don't know if he's going to average 375 yards a game, but he could, be in that range there. And I think it's just availability, because I bet if you win 9 games, I bet he played in all those.
Yeah. Level, for reference, you haven't had a single quarterback at Tech throw for more than 2,000 yards, just 2,000 since 2019.
Yeah, because of injury.
Jet Duffy. Yeah.
Injury. Yeah.
And he threw for 20.
Yeah, that's why I say, I mean, the weapons are there. everything's there. It's just availability, and I think you can, and I don't think you want to. I don't think this year you necessarily want to be as run heavy. I don't think you want to have to go to that all the time, and
I agree.
So even though last year, I remember being criticized for not asking Joey. I mean, Taj Brooks was handing the ball, I think, 25 times in the West Virginia game, and I was criticized for asking him why you didn't you go to Taj earlier? Why didn't you feed it to him more? But that people they just want to win. That's the main thing.
Win,
and there's always criticism in a question that I ask, or criticism in general whenever there's losses there. That's just kind of the way it works, and I get it.
Right. I think I do agree with you. Even though they're pushing this Taj Time website, which is cool, and he had his little poker chips at media days, which was awesome. Man, you would love to get his carries down from 290 last year to like the 225 range. I think.
Yeah, it's better for you and him.
Yes.
You kind of did it out of necessity last year. I would love to see him get his carries at the end of games when you're trying to put games away.
Exactly. Yeah.
That would be a lot of fun. But I do think that in this day and age, that it's really about teams are about versatility. You have to be able to win games in different ways.
Sure.
And everybody's older. Everybody's got some of that to them. And I don't know if you could beat a team throwing the ball last year.
Yeah.
You could beat them running it sometimes. But can you now beat teams throwing it a little bit, and that's why the yardage question, I'm guessing, comes in, because you've got you've got some guys that can stretch the field now. You've upgraded that position, I think, a great deal, that and tight end. So,
yep. All right. So one more question we'll get to before we wrap this up. This one is from Jeff. It says, John Curry. Haven't heard about John Curry in a while. Where does he stand right now? And it's a two-parter. And are there any other local products Tech is currently pursuing?
So yeah, John Curry factors in heavily. I mean, he just happens to be at the one position where you've got two of your best players on defense there, with Jacob Rodriguez and Ben Roberts, and I think John Curry's right behind them, and Bryce Ramirez. And so John Curry will play quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
He's going to play quite a bit. He'll be in a lot of special teams. He's just really good at football. This is a young man that I think could have played some college baseball potentially.
Mm-hmm.
He was just really good at Lubbock Coronado. He punted. He's just kind of he's got some size to him. He's just a really good player. And I know his mom well. And I think that he's just somebody that's got it in his blood, and he's going to be really good around here for a long time. And there may be, depending on injury situation, he could end up starting some games for you this year, but he's going to play a bunch. And like I said, factor in heavily on special teams. And no, he's right there in the thick of things. He just happens to be he's one of your top 4 interior linebackers. I mean, that's that's all you need to know.
Yeah. So that will about wrap it up. We had another receivers question. We'll hold on to that one for next time. And next time, Level, we talk, there will be a college football video game out. So that's getting a lot of buzz, a lot of attention. Oh, man. And that was one of the most fun things at Media Days, was talking to the players, how excited they were, because they got to go back and play it and at Media Days. So they were pretty stoked. But yeah,
like, what am I ranked?
That was a big deal.
That's also why Tech was being so, I don't know, I guess the word was secretive, or protecting the Adidas stuff so much, because the uniforms were all in this game
already in there.
Already in there. And so it was there was a lot going on there. So
no doubt. So all right, Level, appreciate it, enjoyed it, and we'll do it again soon.
Okay, sounds good, man. Woodman, enjoy your week. Thank you to everybody being a part of this one, Cantex Roofing and all those things, and talk to everybody next time, I guess.
This has been the Ask Level podcast, brought to you by Double T 97.3.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.